This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, so yeah, so last session we were talking about shell scripting. We're just going to one second. Yeah, so we were talking about the shell scripting yesterday. So we're going to continue that particular part. Okay, so even today. So just to recall, yeah, let me open that PPT. So we have, or even we noted the topics also. Let me open that. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so I'm here at the in the shell scripting. So we just talked about a shebang. Okay, so what is the if I just try to recall the points, but basically, so what is the shebang I mentioned? The shebang is about the hash exclamatory is called as shebang, right? So yeah, so what it does basically, it denotes the path of interpreter, interpreter, and ensures the remaining the remaining lines are executed using that interpreter. Okay, interpreter. Okay, so this is the purpose of the shebang. All right, so this we discussed in the yesterday's session. All right, and yeah, also the code wise, like let's say if you want some example, so it just looks like this: hash exclamatory /bin /bash. Okay, so this is a sample script, something like that. So save, and this is a shell. Bash. Okay, so let's see. All right, just for your understanding, so it's really not needed, but just yeah, recall is something. And after that, so comments. So in comments, it's quite simple. So any line starting with hash is a comment. Okay, so there is nothing to discuss here much, but any line starting with a hash character, then that line will be ignored by interpreter. Okay, so that's the thing you have it in. Okay, so yeah, that's the thing you have in character. All right, so that's the thing you have in comments. And after that, I talked about the variables. The variables are quite important thing. Okay, so variables are nothing but if you assign a name to a data, so that's a variable. Okay, so I just put that way. If you if you assign a name to set of data, that is called as a variable in a very simple statement. Okay, this is the point. Okay, so if you assign a name to a simple if you assign a name if you assign a name to a data set of data, so then that is called as a variable. Okay, so in shell, how do you declare the variable? So in shell, how do you declare the variable is in shell, sorry, so in bash shell, we declare declare the variable as, okay, variable as so how do we declare the variable? So variable is equal to data. Okay, so that's how you have it. And again in bash shell, so we access the variable as dollar variable, or even you can go for dollar in the flower variables, or in the flower braces you have to give the variable. Okay, in certain scenarios you will be using this particular one. Okay, so in which scenarios you'll be using this one, let me show you that. Okay, so here you are going to go for let me here. So in certain scenarios, okay, so you'll be using these flower braces. Okay, what is the scenario? I can show you practically, but like before to that, so like let's say a is equal to 10. Okay, now if I want to print something, so then I can go for echo. So echo $a, which is fine. Okay, the output is expected is 10. Okay, fine. But like let's say some scenarios will be there. Okay, you wanted to go with so echo $a. That means I'm expecting an output as 10a. I'm expecting an output 10a. So keeping this in mind, so I'm just thinking, so the 10 as this one, the variable, but a. But actually, shell considers this. Okay, the shell will consider a as variable, Now this is a problem, right? So in this particular scenario, so what we're going to do is we're going to limit that particular variable inside the flower braces, and you give a. Okay, so in this particular cases you use some flower braces. Not only this, you'll be having a couple of other scenarios as well, but just this is the one of the most widely faced scenario, at least to say with. Okay, so in bash shell, so we can access the variables as var or dollar variable. Okay, so this is how you can access these things. All right, and yeah, I think that's fine, right? So this is how you do that. And after that, what I mentioned, is so we'll be having a so all the time we will not hardly hard code the value of variable. Okay, variable, and we need the data dynamically. Okay, so that's where so there are two ways basically come into picture, and so that's where the two things comes into picture, which is a command substitution, command and arithmetic substitution. Okay, there are two things which is there. So command and arithmetic. Okay, so arithmetic substitution. Okay, two things. So the command looks like, okay, so so variable is equal to $, and you're going to give the command. Okay, so this is command substitution. This is command substitution, and this is command substitution. So command output will go to variable, var variable. Okay, and whereas the variable is equal to $, and in two flower braces, so command two not flower, sorry, two normal braces, this is arithmetic substitution, and so it's not command, actually an expression. So expression output goes to variable. Okay, so goes to variable. Example is $2 + 3. Okay, this is a simple example I told you yesterday. These are the parts which you have it in variables. And also at the same time, so there are a couple of things even I talked about more. So what all the things we talked about yesterday a little bit more is okay. So variable names can be in two formats. No. Variable names can have. So variable names can have okay. So variable names can have okay, only characters A to Z, capital A to Z, capital A to Z 0 to 9, and underscore. Okay, so only these characters are available. Okay, so only these characters are available. Okay, so the other characters are not allowed actually here. So special characters are not allowed. Special characters are not allowed. Okay, so and the other thing is a variable should not start with a number, and it can start with a underscore. It can start, but it should not start with a number. So these are the things which you have in variable name declaration. Okay, so this is the other part, and also other part we talked about is the variables will not have variables by default will not have any data types. Okay, we talked about, right? So will not have a data types. Everything is a string. Everything is a string. Okay, so that's what we discussed, right? Everything is a string, and so as a user, so you should know that what data data would come. Okay, so and no data types. Data would come. Data would come since there is no data types. Okay, so this is an advantage and also problems going forward also, as I mentioned. So that's okay. So these are the couple of things which you have in the variable section, right? So yeah, I think that's it. So hopefully I'm just thinking that did I missed any point basically. So yeah, so there are some more so some more things are also there, but I didn't explain those things, so which is not needed. Your variables are of variables will hold 3 properties. Okay, so variable will hold 3 properties. Okay, so the variables of bash shell hold 3 properties by default. Okay, let me put that also. Variables of bash shell will hold 3 properties. So what are those 3 properties? So the first one is actually going to be the first one is read write. So the the read write property. So what is the read write property? Let me show you. What is the read write property is, if I go with the shell, like let's say a is equal to 10, echo $a, okay, echo $a, and if I go with a is equal to 20, so that means it's a property is overwritten. I'm able to override the variable, right? So that's a property. Now you see the echo $a value, it's holding 20 value. So that means previously it was having 10, now I overwritten it. Okay, so that's a default property of a variable. A variable can be overwritten. Okay, so that's where so that's where this is considered as a property basically. Okay, so let me put that here. So a is equal to 10 and echo $a, and a is equal to 20. Sorry, a is equal to 20. You try this, a is equal to 20, or even actually I better put it in the code. So I think 1 second. So like let's say a is equal to 10 and echo $a, and a is equal to 20 and echo $a. So this is the read write property. Okay, so you see that, right? And the next property is actually going to be as a scalar property. Okay, so scalar also simple example only. So scalar, all right. So the scalar property is also the same example. At first time a is equal to 10, and the first time the a equal to the first time actually it's a equal to 10, and at that point of time you're actually having 10 value, and next time you're putting 20, at that point of time you're having 20. The scalar means a variable can have only one value. It cannot hold multiple values. It cannot hold multiple values. Okay, that's the default property of your variable. All right. So yeah, and so that's the default property of a variable. And the third one is actually a local. So the third one is a local one. So that means actually it's going to be third one is local. Okay, a local property. The local property is nothing but, like, let's say, so I just make vi/tmp one.set something, and so echo $a. Okay, nothing. I'm just having echo $a, or even in fact I'll just go with /bin/bash. Okay, so 7 quit. So sh or a, okay, like let's say cat/tmp/1.sh, and a is equal to 100 if I give, and sh, okay, so /tmp/1.sh, you will get an empty value. So a value is empty. So that's the another property. Now what is this property? This property is local property. Now what is the thing which is happening here? It's not able to access the variable. Why it's coming this blur? Okay, so now you can see that value is empty. So even though you're on the same shell, and okay, so you're on the same shell, but still you're not able to access the variable. And all these properties can be changed. Okay, these are the default properties I'm mentioning, right? And all these properties can be changed by using okay, so different things, right? So I mean different commands basically. So how do you change the things here is, so here you can just change the read write property by changing to read only. You can change it to read only by using can be converted into read only. So can be converted into read only variable by using a command called as okay, like let's say and a is equal to 100, and so basically I'll say read only variable, which is a variable. Okay, and a is equal to 200. Now you keep it, you're going to get an error. So this is a property. Now you are no more actually have a property to change that value. You lost that. Okay, so that's read only now. Okay, that's called as read only property. These are bit internals. Actually I never teach these in these sessions, but still, yeah, I'm just putting some points here, pointers. At least you can go ahead and look into that. Okay, whenever you get a chance, I'll share these. So, or you can take the screenshot better. So, and the next thing which you have here is the scalar property. Yeah, Venkat, you're saying something?
No.
Yeah. So next one is the scalar. Scalar means it holds only one value. So why don't you go with the multiple values? Okay, yes, you can do that. So now a is equal to, so you can go with the scalar property. A is equal to, in the braces you can just view 10 comma 20. Now you're actually storing, okay, sorry, a is already a read-only variable. I'll go with b. Okay, so b is equal to 10 comma 20. Now you're holding two values. Now if you want to pick a particular value, echo $a of 1. So the flower base here also you have to use flower base, and a of 0 actually. The index starts from 0. So a of 0 is nothing but 10, and a of okay, so a of 1 is actually going to be a of, sorry, not a, right? B is equal to this one, and it's actually b of 0, and actually no, I forget the things. It's not comma, it's space. It is space. Now b of 0 and b of 1. Okay, so this is the scalar. So the variable name is still same, but you're holding two values inside that. Okay, so that's something called as a scalar. That's something I call it as that's something I can call it as so out of scalar. So that something can be called as a vector, but you cannot actually call it as a vector, but still you can simply call it as index. What we call these actually arrays. Okay, arrays. All right, so using arrays you can just overcome this. And finally the local one. So here you're still there. So here now I can just give yeah, so a is equal to 100 and sh/tmp/1.sh, it's empty, and export a. Okay, and now you give sh/tmp.sh, you get the value. Okay, so that's the idea of so converting local into environment. Okay, so that can be converted into environment variable, and we use these environment variables a lot actually. Now what is happening internally, if you're really interested, I'll put some pointer, you can go there and you can watch it. Again, those are also my videos only, but if you're really interested in internally what is happening, okay, so in the same my YouTube channel you'll find out a shell scripting videos, okay, in the public playlist. Go through them whenever you find time, which is really not needed again. Okay, I would not say you should go, but still if you have some lazy time around, want to look into the internals, probably you can go there and take it. Now here I'm converting that into environment variables. Okay, so these are the things, variable properties. The default properties can be changed by some things, by something like this. Okay, so this is the this is the things around the variable properties basically when it comes to properties. Yeah, so I think that's all. But also another point yesterday I mentioned here, I didn't mention here. So these variable names usually prefer to go with okay, so in Linux shell scripts, so so people prefer people from okay, so people from Unix background, Unix or Linux background, anything Unix or Linux background. I think I already completed half an hour just discussing the yesterday's points only. In Linux scripts, people from Unix or Linux background considers the variable, or consider the variable names with all caps, right? So this point I already mentioned it yesterday, right? So, but whereas people from dev background, so people from like let's say Java background, especially background, so people are Java background or Java or development background, basically development background. Okay, so prefer camel cases variables. Okay, so example here is okay, so example over here is also something like some information, like let's say source underscore name, something like this. Okay, so people will prefer this particular way. So but whereas here as an example. So example here it looks like here I choose an example like course name or course name. Both are actually camel cases only. Okay, so course name. All right. So this is how people just it's an basically like so it's a people ideology. It's really need not to be the same all the time. People coming from different so where they're coming from, so which led them to do some things. Okay, so these are the other things actually. Okay, so I think hope everything is clear. Any questions before actually proceeding to today's topic? Okay, I'm in the process of making the PPTs. I just want to utilize the session timings only. I can make it before, but still, yeah. So I am somehow doing it this way. Yes, Nikhil, you're saying something.
Sorry, Raghu. Can you quickly one more time explain that
properties?
No, the last one, the local versus environment. I guess the only question over there is maybe I have to watch your video, how you exported it and how did it realize that it was being referenced in the file.
Yeah. Okay. Since you asked, let me explain. Like it just will take a couple of minutes. So let me just put it here. Yeah. So here, what happened? Okay. So the variables are fine. Okay. So then also the local variable. So once you do a export command, so basically how it came through. Okay. If you really want to curious inside, so what happens is, so you created a shell. Okay. So you opened one SSH shell. Right, SSH, and you got a terminal, right? So this is what you got it, and in the terminal you're getting the commands a is equal to 10 or something like that. Okay, you're doing this. All right, this is fine. Now to the operating system, so SSH you connected. Okay, so and you got a terminal. This is a process. This is a process for the operating system, right? So that means what it does, it creates a process ID. It creates a process ID. Okay, so PID will be created. So you can clearly check that by using so PS command itself. So the PS command itself will show you got a shell which is bash shell. Okay, so if you just go and do PS-EF, okay, so PS-EF, so probably if you see the bash of my shell, so this is a bash basically. So this 4354 is actually parent from 4353. Who is 4353 is actually so SSH. You connected to SSH CentOS user, that gave you this particular terminal. Okay, fine, whatever it is the final process which you're having. So that's a process. That's a PID. And every PID is going to, okay, so reserve some memory actually. Is going to reserve some memory. A memory is allocated for every process in the operating system. Okay, and in this memory, so we just generally categorize, so there are some variables which came out of box. Okay, so if you just go and give env, so some variables it will show env, it will show you already some variables. You never declared these variables. Probably you declared only one variable, so which is a equal to 100. Okay, apart from this, there are a lot of variables here. So and all those variables you didn't declare them. Okay, so yeah. So but where this came from? So what it actually this PID is going to have one PPID. Every process is actually going to have one parent, right? Yeah, I shown you the relation also PS-EF. Oh, this is having one parent. So this parent actually, so from this particular parent, it inherits some properties. It inherits from properties. Okay, from the parent. Okay, like let's say from my parents. Okay, I got a last name as my property, right? So basically, right, I got a last name. Okay, from the family. Okay, from my parents, and probably like let's say so what all the something like like assets also will be mine generally, right? Depends upon the country. It might be. So assets also is mine basically. Okay, from my parents. It's something like that, right? By default, those are the properties here. Okay, so the same way though here also this process ID inherits some information actually from the parent process ID, and it comes here. So now one of it actually is, and it actually pulls the environment from this particular parent. So that's where a lot of environment variables actually came from this particular okay, parent process ID. And again, if you look into the memory, okay, so some section is actually declared for variables. This is local variables. This is for this particular process, okay, and this is for environment variables, so which actually inherited from the parent. At the same time, so what all the childs which is getting created from this particular PID, okay, so what all the childs which actually gets from this particular process. This process also can cause some child process, and those childs actually can read the properties from this particular environment space. So now when you declared a equal to 100, actually here when you did an export, literally what it did is it exported the value from local, it moved to here, okay. So that's where when I created a script, actually when I created an sh script, sh and the script, it actually it's the parent is this one, it is inheriting some properties, and in that property a is equal to 100 is there, and that's where now a is equal to 100 is being shipped. So that's what the export command is doing in the backend.
Thank you.
Yeah. So which really not needed, as I mentioned. So but yeah, if you look into internals, so probably try to understand so what's really happening. So yeah, so it gives you a lot of insights again on the topics. Yeah, fine, whatever it is. Any other questions before proceeding? Yeah, fine. Now the next thing is, so far you're declaring the variables a equal to 10 or a equal to command output, a date equal to command you have given, or some add equal to 2 plus 3, so something like that you have given, right? But a lot of times actually your script needs an input from the user. You actually cannot determine from a command, or you cannot actually hardcode the values. Even we need more, okay. So that's where we're going to talk about this now. So most of the times scripts needs inputs. Script needs inputs from the user, okay, input from the user. All right. So and most of the time script needs input from the user. We cannot hard code the values, and also at the same time we cannot dynamically determine the values as well. Determine the values. You cannot actually dynamically determine the values using command substitution. Okay, so we cannot do this both basically. That's the scenario. Okay, so most of the times your okay, so script most of the time scripts needs script need inputs from the user. We cannot hardcode the values, and also at the same time we cannot actually determine the values from the command substitution even. Okay, in this particular case, so what I need to do, okay, in this particular case okay, let me put this way. Most of the times we cannot hardcode the value, so we need an input. We need an input from the user. Okay, so when it comes to input from the user, and based on input, so we proceed script. Okay. All right. So the next thing is going to be okay. So the input in shell scripting, okay, can be taken in two ways. Okay. So what is the first way is actually going to be first way is what is that? So during I'm just categorizing it, actually it's my words. So during execution, and the second one is before execution. Before execution. So at least as far as I so as far as you see, so all the time actually you are using is before execution only. The cp command you are want to execute. So the cp command, so before executing, I'm not hitting, and then it is cp is not asking me. Okay, CP is not asking me what is your source and what is your destination. Before itself, I'm giving /tmp/1.sh to /tmp/2.sh. Okay, so that means what I'm doing is, before executing the script itself, I'm providing the input. So this is the most widely used scenario. Okay, before execution is the most widely used scenario, but we'll talk about both. So, and also the another thing is, like, let's say if I give, as I said, something like localhost or something like that, it just asks me the input. You see this, just stopping me and asking me the input. When it is asking me the input, okay, so I mean, when it is asking the input, you have to type the input. Okay, so this will not work for automation. This approach will not work for automation. Okay, automation will break because it is expecting the input and it never proceeds and it just stops there. Okay, so that is where so during execution, mostly not preferred, okay, for automation. Okay, let me put these particular points only this much here. Okay, now when it comes to inputs, so which is okay, so during execution, okay, so no, while executing the script, so we create while executing the script, so we ask the input from the user, using read command. So here the command is going to be the read command. All right, so yeah, while executing the script, we ask the input from the user, and that can be done by using read command. Okay, so read command is actually going to ask the input, and you just use that particular input and you're done. Okay, so yeah, let's see an example basically. Yeah, first of all, let me go and create a server. I think yesterday's server, I'm not sure whether it is there or not. J3. So go to EC2. I think there are no instances. Let's quickly launch one. I think we already have some template, right? Why don't I use that template? A launch template, a lot of options. Yeah. So I can just go for launch instance from this template. That's it. Launch instance. Yeah. All right. So let me clone the repository. Where is that? Okay, all right, so let's quickly do this. So here it is Jeera 4 and input, or let's say read.sh. So /bin/bash, and yeah, so I'm going to use the read command and I'll show you. So read command, and I want to print some message before reading the input, right? So even if you remember previously, so if you are logging into the system, so it asks for the password, then you enter the password. You cannot assume that it asks for the password and you cannot give it, right? So that will not work with read command. So that's where I have to print some message. So let's say enter your name. Okay, like let's say I'm collecting the details of the user. I'm putting in a variable called as name. So read -p. So enter your age or something like that. Okay, so enter your age. So something like this. I'm putting into age variable. Okay. Now after that, I want to print so that same details basically. So your name is equal to $name and $name and /n. Okay, so your age is equal to $age, so something like that. Okay, so if I just put that, then just go here, cd shell scripts, so space full. So yeah, sh04 read.sh, and enter your name. And while entering your name, so probably I just enter your age. So age. So if I put here, so this is how it is working. Okay, whatever the input I give, actually I can actually the noise could be from my side only. A lot of people actually here. Yeah, I'm really sorry for that. Let me try to tell. Yeah, a bit better. So
Raghu, one question here.
yeah, go ahead.
Every time you connect to server, and you clone the particular folder, you did the first, right? Git clone. Is it required to clone every time you log in?
So if you are using the same server, not needed, but I'm destroying the instance, right? Every time I'm creating an instance, it's a new instance, you don't expect the content out there, right? You have to get the content.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, now you are giving the input, so basically, and it is actually taking the input. So but this is least used option in automation. Why? Because in automation it expects some input, and input cannot be provided by the automation. Okay, so that technically not possible. So that's where not possible in the sense, yeah. So I mean it's a bit, it bits hold the information. Or let's say enter your name. Let's say you take this script and running through Jenkins. Jenkins does not think that okay, I have to give my name Jenkins, and it will not expect you type it to Jenkins, right? It will not happen. Okay, it will break. So this is not a great idea basically, okay, in terms of automation. But whereas instead of this, if I just give Raghu, and let's say I put the age, so then yeah, so then it has to take those inputs, and if I hit enter, those inputs should be loaded into my script and it should work. Okay, so that's where the next thing comes into picture, so which is the inputs before execution. Okay, the problems are there. So what is the problems? Like we have taken. So this approach okay, will be taken will be taken if for sure we know that script will be executed manually. Okay, for sure, 100% you are sure that the script will definitely execute through manually, then only you go with this particular approach. Otherwise you never go with this particular approach. Okay, so otherwise so this approach will not work for automation. Okay, will not work for automation. It breaks the script, it breaks the automation and ends with the failures basically. Okay, there's unnecessary failures will come into picture. So that's the problem with the during execution. So that's where we require the next thing which is going to be is that's where we require the next thing which is going to be is after execution, or sorry, not after, before execution. Okay, so yeah, before executing the script itself we need to provide the input. So before executing the script, so we can provide the inputs, and those inputs can be loaded, and those inputs can be loaded by script. Okay, how does it load? Okay, so those values will be loaded by special variables inside shell. Okay, inside shell, the special variables. Okay, so this is the approach. This is the approach will be taken by most of the so this is the approach will be taken by most of the commands in the shell also. In the shell, if you are using shell cp command, that means cp command is actually loading the inputs using these special variables only. It does not use anything more than that. Okay, so that's where this is the common approach. If you understand this approach, you'll understand how commands are actually loading the inputs even. Okay, so yeah, this approach taken by most of the commands, and the special variables are $0 to $n. Okay, $n and $* and then $@ and then $hash. Okay, so these are the different. All right, so these are the special variables, and using these particular special variables so we can so we can read the input. So how these works, we'll see them practically right now. Okay, so yeah, and $0 to $n, $hash, $@, so $* and okay, so these are the different variables. So let's see how these works now. Okay, so one by one. So 0 to n are the input arguments. 1 to n is the input arguments. 1 to n is the or let me show you practically, then I'll come to the notes basically. Okay, so then I'll say here, just go here, 05 special var.sh. Okay, so /bin/bash. Okay, so here special variables.sh, and here echo like let's say script name is equal to, or like let's say I'll just give $0. You'll understand what is that. So $0, what is $0 if I run this particular script? sh 0405 special variables. And what is $0? You're getting the output of the script name, output of the script name. So what is $0 then? The $0 is nothing but the script name. Okay, so script name is equal to $0. Script name is equal to $0. So yeah, now that is what the $0 means. So you see this, and okay, I didn't post. Yes, now you see this script name is equal to 05 special bash dot sh. All right, so that's how you get so $0 is nothing but script name. Okay, inside that. And 1 to n is nothing but $1 to $n is nothing but dollar is just to notate that is a variable. Otherwise, the actual variable is 0. Actual variable is 1. Okay, $n is a number basically. Okay, so 1 to n, and it's actually going to be the arguments. Okay, so arguments passed in the order. Okay, in the order. So that means the first argument is actually going to be equal first argument. The first argument is equal to $1, and echo second argument is equal to $2. Okay, so now if I just go and run this particular script now, the first argument is empty, the second argument is empty, because you are not really passing any arguments. Okay, so here I'm having actually 10 and 20 now. Now you can see this, the first argument is 10, the second argument is 20, and the nth argument is nth one. Okay, so like that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can go to n. So that's how you go with. Now you understand, like so cp command, you're giving source and destination, so it is actually loading the source, it's actually loading the destination. So how is it loading the source and how it is loading the destination? Yes, this is how it is actually loading the source, and this is how it is actually loading the destination. All right, so that is how okay, so like to go with that's how we actually go with the arguments. Now what is the next things then? Okay, so echo $* echo $@ okay, so is actually going to be this. Let's see these two things. What you're getting 10 and 20, so that means all the arguments whatever you passed, if you want to get them, okay, so then it actually going to be is all arguments with the star and is equal to, and all arguments with the @ is equal to. Okay, so both you get the same thing, but there is a difference. Yeah, so but you don't have to bother about that particular difference right now. Okay, so the slash also I will better put it in quotes. Why I'm putting in quotes, you will understand it later. Okay, but for now just keep it in, I'm keeping in quotes. Yeah, so you see this all arguments, okay, is all arguments is 10 and 20. Okay, then what is $# then? $#. So $# is nothing but the number of arguments. Okay, I just show you the number of arguments here is two arguments are there, so which is passed. So now I'm expecting the number 2, like let's say 30. So something. If you give something, so how many number of values are there? Is 6 values are there. Okay, so like this. Okay, number of arguments. So this is how you get the inputs into the system. So once you have the input into your system, okay, you are ready to you're ready to use those particular values, and then Yeah, so take care. You can take care of what you wanted to do. All right, so this is how it's going to work. Clear? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, hope everything is good. So the next thing, so which we are going to talk about here is, so here just add that particular one. So $* and $* comma $@ is going to be all arguments. Okay, and the $# is nothing but number of arguments. Okay, so the number of arguments. So probably if I just put a small table, so for as an example also, I'm a fan of Calibri. Okay, nothing more. All right, so yeah. And over here, so if I just put a simple one, so now it's actually going to be is what is that? Special variable, and so special variable is a $0 and a $1, $2, and so $* and $$ and $@ and $#. So these are the special variables which are going to have. All right, so okay, so special variable, and what is the so what is the what is the purpose of this, or what we can say, I'm not sure. Let's put as purpose. So this so to get okay, purpose, or like, let's say, to get what you get what basically, right? So you get the script name here, you get the so first argument here. Okay, you get the second argument here. We use this. Okay, and if you use here, all arguments, you're going to get all arguments, and number of arguments. Okay, so number of arguments you're going to get. All right, so the next thing is actually going to be is special variable, this one, and probably an example. So like, let's say if I say an example here, so for an example, if I take it, so here script 1.sh, and then if I give so 10 ABC, okay, so 10 ABC and 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 4, whatever it is. So if this is the case, then okay, so what is your values are going to be? Okay, so values from example are going to be is so if I just put it as so what is the script name? So it's going to be script1.sh, right? And so what is the first value? 10. What is the second value? ABC. Okay, what is all values? 10 ABC 1 to 4. This is the expected output. So 10 ABC 1 to 4. Okay, and what the number of arguments is actually going to be 3. All right, so this is the things for okay. Let me put this example diagram also, so that you can have some reference. Okay, so here you already have some example. Okay, done. So this is what I have. So this example and this example. So how does it look like? This, all right. Okay. Some understanding, right? All right. So this is widely used one, and for all our scripts, so this is the one which we are going to use now. All right. So if I want to get the variable, so probably I'll prefer to go with the before execution, so that even if I take my script, even if I keep it in automation, also it should work. Okay. If I run it manually, it should work. Okay. So just keeping that particular point in mind. So yeah, we are going to use this. All right. And the next thing is what we can start writing our where is this? The next thing is actually going to be, so redirectors, exit status. But before to that, I wanted to talk about a project here. So what is the project structure I want to take it? Okay. So the project structure I want to take here. Okay. So how do I want to write my code? How I want to write my code for my project? Okay. So I can do it in multiple ways. So let's try to think through what are the different approaches you can take. So I can take the roboshop.sh, so I can go for a, one particular script, roboshop.sh. Okay. So roboshop.sh is a one project script. Okay. So this particular script itself, I can keep it all, all the related information, all the related components. So this itself will have, so front end, this will have a catalog, so this will have Mongo, everything, all the components is written in one particular roboshop.sh. Okay. So that's the thing. Okay. So that's one approach, but let me talk about something around here. Okay. So what is the point I want to talk here is when you write the code using I'm not sure where I mentioned, but I usually mention this. Usually mention the best code practices somewhere. Maybe I didn't mention it anywhere. Okay, I can do it now. So when you go with the code, basically, yeah, okay. When any person actually writes the code, okay, so what actually we have to keep in mind, okay? So there is something called as dry code and wet code, okay? So you should be thinking those two things. When you write the code, okay, so you should be thinking through, probably I can just mention, yeah, so code best practices. Okay, so in the code best practices, I would say here it is. Okay, so the first probably I'll put nothing. Okay, so code has code wet, versus dry. Okay, your code has to be always dry. Okay, so code wet versus dry. I can just put this way. Code should always be, okay, so dry but not wet. Okay, what is this wet and what is this dry? I'll show you this. Code wet versus dry. Okay, so what is dry means? Don't repeat yourself. Write every time. Wet stands for write every time. Okay, so that means whenever we write the code, we always has to think through. So we always has to think through. I forget to mention about a topic called as functions. I'm just adding it. Yeah, come back to this. So whenever we write the code, we always has to think about so keeping the code dry. Okay, now keeping everything in one script. So what is the problem is going to happen? So if I run this script, all the components, if I run this script, all components will be installed on. All components will be installed on and installs on one server. Is that you need? Is that your design? No. So our design is it has to run an individual component on each server. So that means how can I enhance this particular script? So still I can use one script only, roboshop.sh. Okay, roboshop.sh. So still it is going to have all the components, no problem. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide an input. Okay, so I'm going to provide, like, let's say front end. So that means to the roboshop I'm going to give front end as an input. So roboshop.sh space front end. That means I'm running the script against the front end. So that means on that particular server only front end will run. Only front end will run. So this is how I have to make my script working for this way, basically. Each component, only one single component should run. That single component should be provided by as an input. Okay, so you know how you get this, right? So $1 you get the input, and based on the input, okay, so my all components should think that my code should think through that. Okay, the input is front end is coming. My code should understand, okay, the front end is coming, let me do the things for front end. Okay, and the front end things will be done. Okay, so this is how we have to do that. All right, so this is the best practice. Okay, so some people even go with the standard base basically. Okay, so what you can do is alternate approach. What you can do is you can make so multiple scripts. So let's say front end.sh and backend.sh. Okay, catalog.sh, which is mongo.sh. Like this, you can go for multiple scripts, and whichever script I want to run, I can go ahead and run that. That's it. Whichever I want to run, okay, I'll go on run it. That's it. Some people will go with this particular approach. This is also on approach 1. Okay, this is also correct. This is also approach 1 works for us. This approach 2 works for us. Okay, and what can I think through here is that there can be another approach. So probably taking some standard so scripting helps. Okay, so some standard tool helps. So there is a tools called as make. Okay, so there is a tools called as make. Make is as a tool. So it's a standard command line automation tool. So to the make, you can say that so make, you say front end. So all the things whichever need to be done for front end should be taken care by front end, here. So you're giving an argument to this one again. Okay, so make Mongo, then automatically so the make will happen for Mongo. Okay, so this is an approach thing. So it need not to be so you can go with your roboshop.sh. So instead of you write your roboshop.sh deciding what is the input, you take the help of make and so do that. Okay, avoid some burden. Basically the tool is doing the work, you are not really doing the work. Okay, so if you go for an individual script, you can take this approach also. Okay, it's up to you. You are the author, you are actually going to design the so the code. Basically it's your call. How do you make it? Whether you are flexible with this, use this. Okay, If you are flexible with this, use this. If you are flexible with this, use this. Understand. Okay, so my point is my point here is understand. Okay, understand the requirements. Understand the requirements properly, then think through what is the best practice. What is the best practice? Okay, so I kind of like this approach. Why? Because so it kind of, if makefile is there, so probably it helps you in easily to it's easy for everyone. Even as a DevOps guy, you understand that. A developer also will understand that. Oh, everyone have a common platform here. Everyone have a common platform here. Okay, so that's where so this make comes into picture. You take Java world, you go with the Java world, so there is a tools involved there, right? So you have Maven as a tool. Why a tool needed for Java? Can't Java take care of it? Yes, it can take care, but actually Maven bringing a standard so that everyone will understand that Maven language, so that it makes everyone's life easy. So what you're actually doing, you can give it from something. People who don't know Maven, that's okay, but people who know Maven, so that's some reference I'm giving. Okay, so the tools are already there, out of box available. Instead of writing your own script, I'm actually taking the help of Make, and I can do that. Taking the help of Make, and I can do that. Okay, so yeah, and so I can go with any of the approach, but I'll show you all the approaches. I think we can go with this also. I'm feeling okay, or you can try this. So probably I already written this particular code in my previous batch. You can refer that particular batch code. I'll try this. What's wrong? Okay, you will come to know about something new also, right? So yeah, so I usually teach make at the time of Terraform usually. Okay, so because some lengthy commands are involved, so I usually write to make in the Terraform. You can start from everywhere, no issues. Okay, I can start it here. All right, so I can go with this. Okay, before proceeding, any questions? I'll just explain some make, but before to that, any questions? Good. Okay. So one code standard I'm going to talk about, I talked about here is, okay, so keep the code dry. Okay, so we'll talk about one more standard thing so later, but yeah, at this point of time, so you should know what is wet and dry, right? So code should always be dry. You always think about reusability of the code. You write the code today, it is working fine, but when you write the automation, you have to forecast little bit. You have to little bit forecast further. Okay, what's gonna be tomorrow? Okay, I make it today, that's fine. What is going to be the tomorrows? Okay, so you have to think in that particular angle as well. Okay, and so that's where the dry comes into picture. To keep your code dry so that you make your code reusable. Okay, so reusability is what I'm trying to bring it here. That's it, nothing more than that. Okay, so let's proceed with some make example, understand it, and then we'll see what we can go. I'll just go with the new directory and I'll say make example, and probably (0.6). Okay, inside that I'm going to create a file called as makefile, so capital M and makefile. Okay, so it has to be makefile. So again, if your editor asks you to install any plugin, please go ahead and install that particular plugin related to the makefile. Okay, so mine is a local editor. I already might have installed all the plugins. Okay, if it anywhere suggests you to install the plugin, please install them. Okay, so that your code will be highlighted. Now here makefile is pretty simple. So basically, like let's say, I'll say front end as an example, and I'm going to say that here you have to, for sure, you have to use a tab space. So after front end, you have to use a tab space. So that's the very important thing in makefile. If you use spaces, it will not work. Okay, and I'm going to say that so echo, so so installing, I will say front end. Okay, that's all. Echo is what you have to use for executing the shell commands. So echo is a shell command to install the shell command. Okay, so we are giving echo at the rate. Okay, so that's what it is. So like let's say Mongo, I'm going to be at the rate echo installing Mongo. So that's it. That's it. You don't have anything here. Okay, that's it. You don't have anything here. Okay, and if I go to my code, it's pull. If make is not installed, you have to install make, sudo yum install make. I think my image, you'll get the make by default, if I'm not wrong. Oh no, I just installed make. Okay, so it's not there in my image. I have to install make. So 06 and do ls. So now if I go for make and if I say front end, and you are getting the installing front end. So I'll just say Mongo. You're getting installing Mongo. That's it. So you're just taking the help of you're just taking the help of so you're just taking the help of the make and deciding what to run, and it runs that appropriate steps. Okay, so this is one way of doing it. And in the backend, what I'm going to do is I'll write a shell script. So front end is one front end script, Mongo is one Mongo script. Okay, so I'll just make that way and I'll just run them. Okay, that's it, nothing more than that. Okay, make is only a front face how to run it. That's it. If I want to make my own script, that also I can do. Okay, so that we'll talk about now with the help of a condition. So the last topic for today, it's actually going to be conditions. So the condition is actually going to be a case command. Okay, so 07, so case.sh. The conditionals are two types. One is case command and if command. So we'll just start with case command. And so now here case $1. What is $1? Your first argument. So case $1 in. I'm going to say that it's a front end. I'm going to go for echo. Okay, installing front end, and you're done with that one. I'll explain this particular syntax. And so here the next thing is so Mongo. Okay, and I'll say that echo. So it just go for installing Mongo, double semicolon. You're done with case statement. You can just give assac. Okay, that's it. This is the syntax you have written for your so if you want to write your own script, this is how you do that. Okay, so then I'll just go for git pull, and you're going to have sh 07.sh, and you say that front end, it's saying installing front end, and you say Mongo, it's actually going to tell you installing Mongo. Now you are actually writing your condition. So case is a conditional command. So case syntax is case your variable, whatever you want to match with something, you're going to go with that. You're going to write the pattern. So front end is one pattern, Mongo is one pattern, and list of commands you are going to write. Not only one command, you can write multiple commands here. So, and once you're done with that particular pattern, you end up with two semicolons. So this is the whole syntax of your case command. Case is a command, and which is going to validate your condition. So because previously until now you're just executing from top to end, but now I want to do something based on something, right? So based on the input provided by the user, I want to do that appropriate things. If user has provided front end, I'm going to give installing front end and the list of steps to install front end. Like let's say I'm installing Nginx. Okay, so systemctl start Nginx, systemctl enable Nginx. A lot of commands out there. And MongoDB, so certain MongoDB commands. You set up the repos, yum install MongoDB repos. So start the repos, download the artifacts, load the schema. All the steps I would be specifying here. Okay, so yeah, this is how I can make my own condition. I can make my own condition, and I do that. So to avoid this condition, you can approach the makefile also. Makefile, okay, so that is everyone's standard. Everyone will easily understand makefile. So because make is been there from quite long time, and mostly like let's say someone from the development background, they'll for sure know about make. Okay, so make is a quite standard one, and most of the so Linux admin, I mean even the guys who works on Linux and Unix also, make is a quite familiar one. Okay, so that's where I wanted to use makefile. Okay, and that's how So yeah, so either you can choose the condition based on that and you do that, or else also using the make file also you can do that. Okay, so probably I can go for a project, so I can go for a new directory. I'm going to say that it's a RoboShop project code. Okay, so and inside that I'm going to make a make file, and inside that I'm going to go for adding some directories. Okay, adding a directory like, let's say components is the one, and inside that, so probably I'm going to create so like, let's say frontend.sh. so it's actually a shell script. Okay, so for frontend it's a frontend.sh, a new file which is going to be mongo.sh. Now all going to be the shell script. So from here what I'm going to do is like, let's say in this frontend.sh I'll say /bin/bash and echo, like, let's say installing frontend, and here I will say installing Mongo. Okay, so now I'll say that here it is. If I give frontend, it has to go for so @sh components /frontend.sh. Okay, Mongo. Okay, all right. So this is how I just wanted to set up all my components. All the scripts will be there. Make file is going to be one. Okay, so here ls, so cd pull, so cd RoboShop project ls. I'll just say that make frontend. I don't bother about anything. Make frontend. So it just goes and executes one by one step. But how to keep the steps and all, so probably we can start in tomorrow session. So but the idea is this one. So this is how you want, and we'll face some challenges using those particular, making those, looking in those challenges will complete the remaining steps, actually, whatever, remaining topics, whatever you have. The remaining topics, whatever you have here, so will be covered based on the scenario. Okay, so I will start writing my code from tomorrow. I'll start writing my code, and while making the code, I'll face some challenges, and how to address those challenges, these topics will come into picture. And how my code structure can look like, my code structure will look like this. Okay, so components and make file, and I just make this, and I make the automation accordingly. That's it. So second thing, when you actually go with the code best practices, okay, when you go with the second one, I would suggest is, okay, so so try to make the best design, try to make the best design for your requirement. Okay, what design? Best design for, try to make the so best design for okay, so of code structure, basically of code structure, also you can say code structure. Okay, code structure of your requirement, or for your requirement is fine, right? So for your requirement, this is another suggestion. Okay, when you go with this one, so you always try to make code structure properly. Okay, like, let's say if I take you through some my so project related code, so what is the general thing which I make it, like, let's say this one. So there are different projects which I worked on. So like, let's say I went to, like, let's say I can just go for so cd sccls, so cd, let's say this is the Terraform code. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so here ls, now I made a proper code. So all my project structure, I designed one code structure, and I'll follow the same thing. I'll go to module non-prod prod. Okay, so I go with another one. So like, let's say if I go to Kafka, like, let's say I do ls. So here also I have modules. Okay, and I'm having a different environments. There was previously only 2 environments. So here I have C1, K1, P1, like this, different environments are there. If I go to the, okay, so if I go to the like, let's say Jenkins something, okay, so do here. So here also the module is there. Okay, So the remaining code I mentioned here. So probably I just deviated a bit of the structure. So might be some reasons are there. So whatever the reasons are, okay. So I need to follow some structure. Like I go to the another project. Okay. So I can go to, like, let's say if I go to database stack, now you have the code here, and inside that you're going to have config. So on all the config information will be there. Okay, all the information. So now every project, I mean every component, I'm going to maintain the same thing. So cd, so probably cd is stack and do ls. So here is a config, and I mean in the same directory all the code will be there, but in the config we'll be having a config. So this is a structure I made it. Okay, so config is the keyword I am using. Okay, so anything, you don't need to really follow the same thing, so you can go with your own one as well. So this is a Helm chart. This so like let's say if I go with the security stack. Okay, so do ls. So here security stack, no, this is not needed. They're not Terraform either way. Secret stack I can go for. So I can do ls. So here also I'll be having the same thing. Chart, the remaining code remains in here, but the config remains. So the config is the one which I look in the main directory, and the remaining things can be structured as per the need. So that's the stand I take it. Okay, when you actually go with the, so when you actually go and work on a project, so think through that, so try to come up with the best design of your code structure. Okay, if you're initializing, or you're working from the initializing of the project, you get such chances, or you're going to work on the existing project, so probably you might not get such chances. But try to take, I mean, rather than doing the work, okay, sometimes it really helps actually you take the steps back rather than doing the work. Look through that, so what you're doing, whether you're actually doing the things properly or not. You should put some time and understand the things, whether you're doing it properly or not. Always doing the work will not really help you, seriously, not help you the project also. Okay, so always has to stop somewhere and okay, recheck what you have done. Okay, so in the agile practices you'll be having a retro is mostly the developers, they look in that particular perspective of issues related perspective. I'm just talking about the design related perspective. Even for design also you can do a retro. Okay, retro means basically look back, right? So and try to understand what's really you have done. Okay, so you have been, like, let's say 3 months, or so you put it like a 3 months. Once you try to look back, I mean, try to understand what you have done. So probably 3 months back, whatever you have done, okay, might be you starting the things, you didn't really think through that so many things, and after 3 months you will be definitely matured, little bit matured, from the, at least definitely matured than the 3 months back, right? You're definitely matured. Okay, so now using this particular 3 months knowledge, what can the things you can correct it? Okay, so that kind of thesis is really important. Okay, so while you work, actually this is really important. Work anyone can do, seriously. Okay, but while you are growing basically, so doing the right thing is very important. Okay, so yeah, so that's where certain things will come into picture. I mean, at least we usually do this, okay, as a standard practice. So if you want, you can adopt that as well. So always look back. Okay, so what you're doing, so that's where it helps you. Okay, so these two things I would suggest on the code back best practices at this point of time. So a couple of things will be there later, we'll talk about that. Yeah, I think that's all from my side for today. Any questions? Any questions? Today I think most theory, a lot of theory, less practical, but a lot of theory over there. Yeah. Any questions? All good? So tomorrow we'll just talk the conditions once again. So case, I'll just give you some standard syntax using that particular syntax. Okay, so you can build a case statement usually, right? So, and it's ideally the same. So we'll start from conditions, and then we'll jump onto the project. We have steps out there, right? In Azure DevOps, we have steps. We'll take those steps and we'll just put one by one, and you'll keep one by one. Okay, so we'll just keep the commands and we'll face issues to address that issue, what I have to do. Okay, what is the best practices out there? And we'll talk about topic and then fall back to the example so that we'll learn it in a better way. Okay, that's the idea. So I think that's all from my side for today. So final call. Any questions? Okay, all right. So see you in tomorrow's session. Bye. Good day. Good night.